the shit jumping like a 6'4". Chrome with the big spokes, I'm so official. Crazy white boy with the big old pistol.
Hope you can see this pretty well. So right down here is the lower strut bolts, the lower knuckle bolt. So we're gonna end up dropping both of these bolts and nuts, as well as there is a nut that screws into the shock up top here that you're gonna end up having to undo after you drop the lower control arm away from the knuckle. And what that's going to allow you to do is be able to get enough downward movement to fit a spring compressor in here to compress this, as well as remove this strut itself. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove the sway bar link. Go ahead and put that on there on the back. We're going to go ahead and move this jack up until this sway bar link frees itself up. Okay, so the very next step is to go ahead and remove the lower control arm to knuckle assembly bolt and nut. Alright, so once we've gone ahead and broken that free, we can go ahead and continue to loosen these up. Now you guys can use an impact or ratchet and wrench. I'll probably switch to an impact here in a few minutes. I just wanted to make sure that the threads are still good and everything's perfectly fine, right? Because as car people, we all know we have this finite skill to be able to feel shit, and you can't feel stuff when you are using an impact. So with a ratchet and wrench first, and then once you feel comfortable enough to where it's good, you can go ahead and run it out with an impact. Like I said, you are going to need a mallet, and we're going to go ahead and continue to tap that out. Once we've removed this lower knuckle bolt, we're going to go ahead and remove the actual strut mount bolt. So once we went ahead and broke the nut on the back of this control arm loose, all we did was take the impact, run that out, and then we're about to go ahead and pop this lower bolt completely out. And for me, it's going to be a pain in the butt because right now I'm on Malibu suspension, which, if you guys know, you got to shim and put washers in between your actual shock mount down at the lower end. So once we go ahead and get those fasteners pulled out at the bottom, we're going to go ahead and work our way up to the top where the upper mount is. After we go ahead and get that out, we can drop the jack and pull out the whole rear strut assembly. We're going to go ahead and move up to the top, which is where we're going to find a 15mm nut, and you're going to need a deep well for that. So we're going to go ahead and get that unscrewed, and we're going to go ahead and drop out the top shock. So up at the top, we're going to go ahead and fold this flap back, reach our deep well 15 in there, and slowly start to break that free. So now that we went ahead and got this out, we can go ahead and get to moving on the coil spring. Now for other people, results may vary. When I took out my factory spring, I had to take a coil spring compressor tool and compress the hell out of it. And I had to actually modify a coil spring compressor tool. But with this suspension setup and the way that it wore or kind of broke in, from before, I was not able to actually move my control arm like this when I had my factory suspension in there. But allowing this give and everything to actually move now, I was able to just drop out this whole entire assembly all as one unit. And the bottom insulator you're going to want to keep, because that is going to pair up with the new coil spring at the bottom. So we're going to go ahead and shoot over to the workbench, and I will show you how to match that up. Back here over at the workbench, we are going to take our factory insulator that came out from the bottom of our control arm, and as you can see, there is a notch right here. Now that notch is going to actually pair up and interface with your lower control arm. Now, you're going to have two sides to your spring. You're going to have the flat side, which is going to go with your adjustment. That's going to go up towards the top. Now the side that actually still has the raw coil and it's kind of at a tilted angle and it's not finished out flat, that's the side that's going to interface with your insulator. So we're going to go ahead and actually stick this insulator in, and it's got a groove. It kind of like corkscrews, if you can see that. It's almost like threads, right? So we're going to stick that in and twist it until it turns in place, and then that's how we know that we have the insulator in there correctly, is it kind of just sits in there. Okay, and once we have that, then we can go ahead and take our adjustment, and we can fit that in on top, and then we'll be able to throw this whole assembly in to the rear of the car, basically undoing what we just did. Okay, so once you have your shock fitted in there, your spring fitted in there, slowly raise a jack underneath this whole assembly, and you're going to want to make sure your coil spring is sitting in its insulator, as well as your shock tube itself fit inside of the hole that it needs to up on the top end. So we're going to go ahead and slowly raise this jack.
Dangerous animals, and you know it. The catch is, you will sever every human contact. Nobody will ever know you exist. Here's the deal.
Once you've gone ahead and tightened everything up to spec, you're going to move down here to this locking collar, and you're going to go ahead and use the included spanner wrenches, tighten that up, and then what we're going to do is we're going to take a measurement from the top either of the threads or this notch right here inside of the coilover body. And what I like to do is I like to take a set of calipers, go from this notch, and then go to the locking ring. So you always want to take your measurements, keep them documented. Like I said, top thread, this notch, top of the actual shock body where this bushing's at. Either one, because what you want to do, same thing with your spring, right? You'd want to document that, unless if you're like me, and you turn it all the way down because you want to go low. Okay, you turn it all the way down both sides, and then what we're going to end up doing taking a measurement for the shock so that way we can get exactly the right amount of preload, both sides. That way our ride is consistent and it's not wanting to pull from one side to another. So I'll go ahead and get that measurement, go ahead and document it in my paper book, go ahead and torque this down, and then we're good to start reassembling everything.
People are dumb, panicky, dangerous animals, and you know it. Catch is, you will sever every human contact. Nobody will ever know you exist.
Here's the deal.